What's up, broke-ass mofos? Anthony Zuzolo here, broadcasting to you from a state-of-the-art studio and totally not a warehouse in Brooklyn. So for this video, I want to talk about a subject that I'm calling too poor to date. Imagine, if you will, reaching for your wallet, and when you open it up, you notice there's no dollar bills in there. But then you figure, well, that's not that bad, because that means I have room to store my protection in there. But then you never get to use that protection. That's what too poor to date is. But in all seriousness, I do think that I have a small problem, and it is that I don't think that I have the money to show a prospective romantic partner the good time that I think she deserves. When you bring up the economy, people have all sorts of different opinions. I know that. You'll hear all sorts of unsolicited advice. I hope we can at the very least agree, no matter what you think about that wages haven't kept up with the cost of living the way they should have. How much would you guess these brownies are? $7. They're fucking $7. The way that money's been flowing these days, it's causing a lot of businesses to disappear, and millennials are getting blamed for it. There's tons of articles on that. What are we being blamed for specifically? Well, they say that somehow millennials are not going out to restaurants, but we're also not cooking at home. I don't know how that's supposed to work. Either we're chowing down on frozen TV dinners and not thawing them out, or we're just lying on our backs in a field sucking from cow udders without permission. They also say we're killing mayonnaise, although for that I blame the fact that there's less white people in our population. And also Toys R Us. Toys R Us went out of business, at least for a little while, and that got blamed on millennials. I don't know how that could be pinned on me. I feel like if I were to reenact the Battle of Hoth with my Star Wars action figures, it would be frowned upon. That is sad, though, Toys R Us going out of business. I mean, imagine how devastated their mascot, Jeffrey the Giraffe, must have felt. He probably went home, stuck a rope around his neck, climbed on a stool, jumped off, and then was perfectly fine. The fact is, spending habits change between generations. There's a lot of businesses that I would like to keep afloat that I just don't have the money to do by myself. I'm seeing some ads for Western Union now because a lot of people are sending money directly to their friends and they don't need to go to a hub to do that when it's just as easy as using your smartphone. So now Western Union is getting their own app so that people can send money to their smartphone. And you know, that's a little sad to see Western Union potentially disappear. They're an American institution, basically, since, I think maybe the 1800s. I mean, when they were sending telegrams. I'd like to send a telegram. They don't do that anymore, though. And I can't use their money wiring service because I don't have any friends that lose all their cash in blackjack. Now, I thought I was the only one who avoided dating, for one of the reasons being not being financially fortified enough, but apparently there's other people out there that are experiencing the same thing. I was looking online, and here's what one guy had to say. From the forums on Reddit, he writes, I just graduated college this past spring, and I work in retail. While I earn enough to pay my bills and feed myself, I don't have the disposable income to take a girl out. I can afford going out to grab drinks and eat at a reasonably priced restaurant, but only if she foots her own half of the bill. I don't see my situation being a problem if I stick to dating college girls, but I'm more attracted to older women who have careers. Am I too poor to date? Should I even bother with dating older women, or will they be turned off when I can't take them out? A lot of you might know somebody like that guy. This lady certainly does. She writes, my guy friends tell me how embarrassed they are that they cannot get married because their income is too low to support a family. They date women who don't deserve them because they feel so unworthy. They believe that they cannot afford to date the women that really hit it off with. I've seen a few of these guys break out and actually make some money, but it's still never enough to give them confidence. And you feel bad for these guys. Sarah Beth certainly does, and I know I do too. Unfortunately, not everybody who recognizes the problem is as sympathetic, as in the case of this douche who writes for Medium.com. In his article, he wrote, in case no one told you, men without money shouldn't be out dating. If you make less than the figure the person you're dating deems acceptable, then the earthly pleasures of physical contact and conversation are closed off to you. Smiling, enjoying a meal with good company, and personal displays of affection are off limits to you. Those benefits belong to the gainfully employed and accomplished, not the underemployed and unpolished. Gee, given the fact that most websites today in this economy aren't very viable, perhaps Solomon Hillfleet might be the one who's too poor to date in the future. Let me know if this sounds familiar to you. You're out and about, walking along to some random destination when you realize to yourself, hey, this is kind of boring. I should be on my phone instead of paying attention. So you open up Instagram, and there's a particular person who thrives on Instagram. We've all seen him. It's young, attractive girls. The only people who possibly outnumber the young, attractive girls on Instagram, it seems, are the perverts who simp for them. Yeah, it always seems to be these young girls causing all the mayhem on Instagram, TikTok, those kinds of digital spaces, by doing things like posing for the camera and showing off what they've got, and they're always standing in front of a house that most people their age couldn't afford, so it makes you kind of think, did she have an uncle that was mysteriously poisoned? They do things like throw these lavish parties with balloons, like gender reveals. They're always going off to these countries that you had no idea even had islands. In fact, I don't think these countries have islands. I think that tropical islands just magically form around wherever they're standing. It's probably not that simple. I think maybe the right planets need to be in retrograde, and they need to get some sort of sugar daddy to throw a wad of hundreds down on the corpse of a goat demon that they sacrificed. Yeah, I don't know the details of it. All I'm saying is they seem to be getting their way quite a bit, which, there's nothing wrong with having those things. Live your best life, more power to you. I'm just saying that the flaunting of it, that's having a negative effect on society that I don't think can be denied. And young people in particular are having a tough time handling it. That's not normal. You know what I think? Somebody needs to start an Instagram account called People from High School Who Got Fat and Can Barely Afford This Fixer-Upper. And then you'd look on it, and then everybody would just have just a barely furnished home with a chalk outline on the rug and stains. You'd get to see your high school quarterback neglecting his 6 kids for a 6-pack of Modelo. Although at least he named each bottle after one of his kids. But he gets all the names wrong, which is weird because one of them's a junior. Now I think the larger part of society is aware about how these profiles make young girls feel inadequate. I don't think it's talked about as much that these profiles can make young guys feel inadequate too. Now, too poor to date isn't exclusively a male problem. Young ladies could also find it difficult to make enough money to have fun. I do think that, if we're being honest, it's more likely to stop a guy from pursuing romance than it is to stop a girl because of the way that society's been for most of it. And it's not because of the wage gap, because the wage gap isn't real. Women don't get paid less than men for doing the same job. That's been illegal since decades before I was born. If a guy's doing that to you, if a boss is doing that to you, you can take their ass to court, and I'll back you up on that. But it's probably not happening. But what is real is that women don't often get the salary that they deserve, just like their male counterparts. And that could cause them to not want to date. It's a possibility, even though it's not proportional. I just wanted to mention that because I hate when there's a group and they act like they're the only group that has the one problem because it affects them more than other groups. It's just, I find it very callous to exclude them. Maybe you've come across these articles that talk about outdated gender roles. Let's just ignore those articles for the purpose of the discussion, because men, for the most part, are still seen as the providers. Or that's what they're supposed to be. I mean, I'm supposed to be a provider. Like, whatever. And, when you feel like you can't provide, it makes you not really want to go into that dating territory. The attitude behind the profiles I was talking about is everywhere.
What about his salary? Yeah, it definitely matters because money security, financial security is important to me.
If his bills are paid and he treats me right, I don't think money should be an object because it doesn't last forever.
Is there a number that stands out to you as a decent salary? Like something that you would be like, okay, he needs to make this much money.
I don't think there's a number in mind, especially for right now. But I would say if he's not ever making more than, let's say, $100,000, then I would be a little bit worried about our future.
I'm gonna say like in the 70s. I don't know. There's like the gender wage gap, so I don't even know. I would say enough to live a life of leisure in a sense, like not have to worry about your rent, your utilities, stuff like that, but also obviously a more desirable man would be able to take care of our kids, of myself, of our older parents. So I would say somewhere between 400K to wherever. Like there's no bar.
At 23, if I were to be dating a man right now, 80K is pretty good. 80 to 100K is what I'd be looking for. Yeah, somewhere around 80 to 100K in your mid 20s. That's sad because I plan to be making 100K or more, hopefully before 30. So
It's just crazy.
that is crazy.
Yeah, and then when all girls want that, they're all going after the same men, and it's like, what are you gonna do?
Right.
I don't know. Maybe I'll have to get into a different industry, I guess.
I think 6 figures is definitely decent for, it's a little, you got to work hard for it nowadays, but for an income, to create a family and things of that nature, like at least 100,000 is acceptable. I mean, we'll take less, but it just depends on your job and your career and what you're doing.
Yeah, a lot of girls have said that, and I actually just recently read this statistic where only 2% of men between the ages of 20 and 40 make 6 figures and are over 6 feet, which is like 2 of the things that women typically say they want.
Right.
But it's crazy to think about the fact that there's only 2% of men
Yeah, that are out
making
there.
that much. Yeah.
I'll take a short guy that makes $1 million all day long.
It's a fair compromise, right?
If his bills are paid and he treats me right, I don't think money should be an object because it doesn't last forever.
Courtney? Yeah. Yeah. This is the Cheesecake Factory. This is the Cheesecake Factory, y'all.
What's the problem with that?
This is a chain restaurant. Who takes someone that looks like this to a chain restaurant?
You want to talk about it? I'm fine with talking about it. Even in front of them.
Oh, yeah, I want to talk about it.
Yeah.
I don't want to get it going in the car. Yeah, we're going to talk about it. Oh, okay.
Okay.
So, yes, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
So you expect a man to go all out on the first date. Is that right?
I mean, you're supposed to. When you take out a beautiful woman and you're courting her, because I get courted. So you're courting her, right? You're supposed to take care of her. You're supposed to cover her. You're supposed to protect her, cherish her, treat her well, right?
Yeah.
That's what you're
I
supposed to do.
I agree.
No,
I
you
literally
don't
said-
understand. Look at me. I cannot go in the Cheesecake Factory.
There's nothing.
I will die.
I'm sorry, but that's scary because it's unrealistic. I mean, it's not unrealistic in the terms that nobody can measure up to those standards, but if you look at statistics honestly, most people aren't going to measure up to 6 figures. A lot of these girls don't even sound like they comprehend what they're saying. It comes off like, I want to get him who makes 500K. I want to get him who makes 500K. It sounds like that's a buzzword that they got from Wendy Williams and they're just repeating it. Honestly, I can't really blame a girl for wanting to be secure in their finances like we all do. But less than 1% of guys make that kind of cash. 6 figures. Most people won't see that in their lifetime, like per year. So, I just want to ask these girls, would you be okay if your mom had told your dad that he was a broke loser and wanted to go elsewhere? Like, I don't know. I don't think you would. When you live in New York City, it's inevitable to feel like couples are being shoved in your face all the time. You see the occasional gold digger, but then you also see couples And you're like, well, she's with that guy. That guy's not a rich guy. I can see how he's dressed. He's clearly not dressing to impress anybody. Or you see a kind of weak, simpy guy with a girl and like, oh, well, she's not with him because he's this ideal version of what a guy's supposed to be. So you see that there's like people who genuinely date because they like the person. So I don't know why I allow people who talk like in that clip to scare me, because they're probably not the majority, but it's still just like enough to, you know, it's intimidating. I mean, I know I have nothing to be worried about, but like still, it's just like you see that attitude and you kind of want to pause. So the last person that I felt comfortable enough asking out on a date was when I moved into my new apartment. She works in the real estate office, and I went to go get the key for my new apartment, and she gives me the key, and I noticed it was only the one key, and I said, so does that mean you're not going to include the key to your heart? Which sent her into a giggle fit that I am quite proud of. We did not end up going out on a date. I guess you have to file separate paperwork for that. But it actually was because she was seeing somebody already. But it was kind of stupid of me to ask her out on a date in the first place, because she works in the real estate office, so she probably knows just how crappy my apartment really is. So here is my humble abode. Yeah, over $1,000 a month for this. I do not love it. Honestly, like, I'm actually pretty easy to please. Like, I really don't mind the fact that it's small. I don't like it more because I was living in a neighborhood that I liked, and I was forced to leave that neighborhood because I couldn't really afford it anymore. And, you know, when you are used to walking to work in 5 minutes, when you have to give that up, that's not fun. So, yeah, I mean, and it's not a good neighborhood either. Like, this is a new building. You can see the floors are newer. But it's a new building in like a shitty neighborhood. Like, okay, so I'm most of New York City's a grid. I'm in the part, not most of it, but a good chunk of it. But I'm in the part that's not a grid anymore. So I was walking the streets to try to get to know the neighborhood. So I'm walking, and I go, okay, there's Decatur Street. All right, that's Decatur. And then go to Hart Street. All right, that's Hart Street. All right, next one, Malcolm X Boulevard. Oh shit. Like, I mean, I'm joking, of course. I don't feel unsafe, but it is, compared to my other neighborhood, not good. So, yeah. So this is what you get for not a lot of money, and I mean, you also get this. We share a common area, and I mean, this is what I'm talking about. Like, my roommate, he's gonna break his lease because he like hates it here. There's my room, his room, and then we have another roommate. Then we share the bathroom and the common area. But like, he's breaking the lease because he just, I guess, can't stand living here. So yeah, and it's noisy too. Like, there's a guy, he plays his trumpet or trombone for like 5 minutes and stops, like in a way where it's just kind of like, all right, I practiced for the day, we're good, right? And then we're not too far from the subway, so you got to hear that. There's sometimes on weekends somebody not even in this building. I mean, there's people that play live music in the building too, that's annoying, but there's somebody also that plays loud music not even in the building, and you can hear it, and they play it for like 12 hours, and it's Spanish music, which to my cracker ears, they sound like the same song, like over and over again, from like 12 in the afternoon to like 12 at night. It's happened. So like, that's not fun. And then the sound in the building, like, it travels weird. You can hear it through the walls sometimes. So, one time I hear this girl, I don't know if she's next to me, above me, below me. She's on the phone, and she's like, probably talking to her boyfriend, and she goes, "Where were you last night? I need to know. You didn't tell me, blah, blah, blah. And you better straighten up and act right, because when this baby comes," and I'm like, oh, great, because I knew what that meant. And then, like, about a month ago, 2 months ago, I heard a baby crying for the first time, and I was just like, it begins. And the baby crying, like, that's, honestly, of all the noise that's around here, it's probably the least cacophonous of any sound. Like, I can tolerate that sound, but it's just, when the baby cries, I'm just like, how did I end up here? Like, what happened? So, I mean, like, again, I don't mind, because it's just me, but the topic of this video is too poor to date, so, like, if I ever wanted to date somebody, it's just like, this wouldn't cut it, really. Like, you couldn't come back here and hang out, and I do mean hang out, like, I don't mean, like, if you wanted to just come back, like, here, what would you do? I guess you could just maybe sit there and just chat, but I don't know, what else would we do? I wouldn't even really feel comfortable bringing them back to watch TV. I can imagine a girl being like, "Oh, you want to watch Netflix? Do you have Netflix? Oh yeah, sure. I'll just ask my mom for her password." And then she would leave and go home and watch the Great British Baking Show with some other guy. So that's why some people feel too poor to date, I guess. I want to stress that I am fine with the apartment in that video, but admittedly, it is because it is just me. I would be ashamed to bring somebody there to hang out. If it wouldn't cut it if I wanted something more out of life. Right now, I'm kind of okay with just it being me, but I get that I'm supposed to move on eventually. And I do need something better. The annoying thing is that some people just seem to want you to have it all, like, before you date them. And I never really got that. I felt like part of the whole reason to date somebody is to get together when you have nothing and just sort of build a life together. I mean, isn't that the appeal? I mean, if that's not part of it, it's just like, why not be by yourself, you know? I'll pay for the first date, but after that, I think people need to start paying for themselves. Like, because a movie's about, what, $60 between snacks and tickets? For that amount of money, I could be playing South Park, The Fractured But Whole. And instead of 2 hours of fun, I get 20 hours of fun. And if I want to be sexually gratified afterwards, all I have to do is open up the case and slam my dick into it. Shove it right into that fractured butthole. Oh my god, he raped Kenny! That's a joke, but guys are choosing video games over girls, according to some of the research at least, and honestly, I can't really blame them. It's kind of the wiser decision. Nobody ever accidentally got pregnant because you were playing Dragon Quest. In fact, it kind of guarantees that you won't be getting anybody pregnant. I think that's a big factor that fuels too poor to date. Lots of people can't afford to have an accident. Now, side note, we should acknowledge that not everybody who has a boyfriend or girlfriend is physically active with that person, but by American standards, that is the norm. I just want to give them a shout out because, you know, abstaining is totally fine. You know, it's your choice, and you shouldn't have to feel pressured to do that. But since most couples do take that step, it means that there is a risk of a baby being born. And for younger generations, that can be a nightmare. A lot of them are broke, and they live with their mom and dad because there's not jobs that pay well enough to help them live on their own. I can't blame them for not wanting to bring a child into that. That's another big issue with too poor to date. It's not attractive to bring somebody back to your mommy's house. You can't tear down the walls late at night when dad needs to be up early to get to the office. That's why going out has been replaced by Netflix and chill. Now, it doesn't bother me personally too much because I'm kind of a homebody who can't miss his precious TV shows even when they're on streaming. But most people, in the past generations at least, they like to go out and have fun when they're dating. And I do have that side to me too. I do have an adventurous side that I want to share with a partner. I like to, even when it's simple stuff, I like to walk around New York City and just, take it in. And I want somebody who enjoys that stuff too. And I want to do things like travel maybe to Japan and the Maldives and Greece and all these other places. And I feel like I can't do those things because I'm alone. And to experience them alone would be kind of just pointless. And being too poor to date isn't just bad for couples, it's bad for just about everybody. I mean, even industry, really. I mean, think about a good portion of money is spent with other people in their company, doing what they want to do, and the things that you want to do with them. I mean, think about, as we mentioned, travel, there's going to concerts, there's restaurants, all that's fueled by dating. People are being put in the position of having to choose, do I want to spend my money on somebody else who I might not even like, or do I want to save that money in case there's some sort of emergency? I mean, the world is set to look very different if nobody can afford dating. So how do we solve this? Well, it would involve companies or the government making it so that the cost of living goes down. And that is not all realistic, so I don't really know what to tell you. What I can do is try to give you advice. So what I would say is, if you're in the dating market, just try not to care about superficial things. I know that's easy for me to say and might not be easy to do, but I think that you really shouldn't do anything that you wouldn't want done to yourself. So if you wouldn't want a partner that cares about the money that you make, I mean, you shouldn't really be in a position to judge them on their paycheck. And I know that doesn't solve the issue of needing to support yourself, but I think that there's other types of support that a person could have or be giving you that aren't financial. I personally, the biggest reason I would want to date somebody is for the emotional support, really. I don't care about them making money. I mean, I'd want them to pull their weight, but I realize that the reality is that the world wants to keep most people poor. So it's a silly thing to me to want in somebody else. And also, I would say, if you have the feelings that I have, where you feel like somebody's not going to see the value in you because you don't have enough cash in your pocket, just, again, there are couples around, you can see them. They're not dating each other for what they can provide each other with. They legitimately like to be in each other's company. So if somebody can see value in somebody else that has nothing to do with material goods, somebody can see that value in you, as long as you have it. And you probably do. You probably have some good quality. Whether it's you're kind, whether it's you're smart, creative, something like that. And if you feel like all these bitches just want money, maybe you can try more visibly displaying that quality in some way. And I think that might increase your chances of finding somebody who's right for you. And if you find yourself in a position where you're not making enough money, maybe not just for somebody else, but for yourself, I would say, even though it's easier said than done, try looking for a different job or a second job. It just depends on what's more important to you. Maybe the time is more important to you and you're okay with making less money, but maybe you want more money and you're willing to have no free time. And it just, just sit down and weigh what the priorities are. And it's not going to be the same for everybody, but that's what I think you should do. Remember to leave a kind and thoughtful comment, subscribe to this channel, like this video, and thank you for tuning in.